Alright, so welcome back again. My name is Jesse, and in this wonderful tutorial, we're trying to see how to install Pluto on your system for Julia, and as well as how to use Pluto UI. So let's see how to work with it. So in case you don't have Julia, you can just go to julialang.org, then you can install it on your system, right? So there is support for all the major operating systems for Windows, for Macintosh, for Linux, for FreeBSD. So let's see how to install Pluto and how to work with Pluto UI. So I'll come back to my terminal. I'll just go with Julia. I'll open my Julia repo from my terminal. Right, and then from here, I'm just going to go to my package mode. So the package mode is this one, this particular star, this particular symbol here, right? At this, the right square bracket. Then I'll just go to that, go to the package mode. Then to add my package for Pluto, just go to add Pluto. That is how to install Pluto on your system. It's going to go to make sure that you have internet connection. It's going to go to the official registry, then install or download the package and install it on your system. Perfect, so it has finished installing. I already have it, that is why there was no changes. Now let's move on to how to add Pluto UI. So going to go the same thing, the package mode, Pluto, then UI, right? So this is going to be to help us with Pluto UI, which is going to give us widget. I've already installed it, so there was no changes. Now let's move on to how to work with Pluto. So to run Pluto, just go back to your Julia repo, right? The backspace, then you just go to import Pluto, right? To be able to precompile, it's going to precompile Pluto. Then going to start Pluto Notebook. So to start Pluto Notebook, just go with Pluto.run, right? Then it's going to open your default browser, right, on a local host with a specific port and some secret number. Perfect, as you can see. So I can actually copy this one. So let's right click on it. It said so automatically using my default browser, but let's copy this one here. Let's copy this link and let's use Chrome, right? So I'll copy this, go back to Chrome, then you use it on Chrome. So I'll paste it inside my Chrome browser. So let's paste it here. Paste, right? So we paste it inside Chrome, then you just move to that particular place. So we'll not be using Mozilla, let's use Chrome. So that is opening perfectly for us. So this is how to work with Pluto. That is how to install it. So to install it, just go to your Julia repo, then just go with add Pluto from the package mode. Then you just go with import Pluto, then Pluto run. Then it's going to give you this local port. Now let's move on to how to work with Pluto and then Pluto UI. So I'll come back here. So this is going to be the interface for the notebook. Then you can create a new notebook here, or you can open a notebook from here, right? So let's go with create a new notebook. I'll click on it. It's automatically going to open a new notebook. Then you will start working from there. Right, so it's going to open my notebook, loading. Then you start writing some code. So the interface is very, very simple. It's going to give you the option of having the live docs here. You can also send some feedback in case you have a bug. You can check the statistics. You can check the frequently asked questions. And then some very cool stuff that you'll be exploring in this wonderful tutorial. Perfect. So now this is the interface of Pluto. So it's going to give you this particular cell. I don't know whether you can see it. It's giving us this particular cell, right? Very nice. So on this cell we have the plus at the top in case you want to add a cell at the top. We also have another plus below in case you want to add a cell below. Then you have the hide button in case you want to hide it. Then this is what you use to run, or shift plus enter. You can also delete it with this particular one. So let's see an example. So in case I have a variable like a, then let's go with, let's say, hello Julia, right, from Pluto, and Julia from Pluto. So in case I want to see this particular one, I just click on this, right, the play button or shift plus enter. Any of them is going to work. It's going to run. Then unlike Jupyter Notebook that the result comes down, in Pluto the result comes up, right? It's very interesting. So it's going to render the result at the top here. And you can see that the result is here, right? It's not going to come down. Very nice. You can also do some other stuff. So in case I want to add another one, just click on add. Then let's put in something here. So I'll just click on this to add another cell. I said it's adding the cell. So I can just go straight away and then one thing about Pluto that in case I do something like this, print line, A, right, the result here is not going to be shown on the notebook. It's going to be shown inside my terminal, right? So the result here is going to be shown here. That is something very cool, right? So it's going to tell me the worker that is working on, then the result is going to be shown inside the terminal. So to be able to see your result inside your terminal, right, the simplest way is just store inside the variable and bring it out. Or you can use this particular approach using the Pluto UI, right? So let's see how to work with the Pluto UI. This is the basic overview of Pluto. So I can hide this one by clicking on this. Just go to hide that particular command, right? So that's just gone. In case I wanted to unhide it, then it's going to come back. So very simple. And then in case you are working with multiple stuff, like let's say multiple codes, right? You must always, one code is per line, but for multiple codes, just go with begin and you put your code here. So let's say B is equal to hello, right? Then B, then end. So this is in case it's multiple codes. So this is in this particular option, the result is going to come perfectly well. So that is for multiple code. Very simple. Now I can also move these ones up. I can move this one to the top, just like in Jupyter Notebook. It's going to move it to the top for you as you wish. So the result always come at the top, not below. And you can also hide, as we saw. You can hide it or you can unhide it. See that now it has come to the top. What we moved has come to the top. You can also export this result. So go back to this place. Then you can just click on export. Then you can export it as PDF, HTML, or notebook, right? The normal script. You can also save our result. So let's go back to this place to save the result. Just click on this particular place. Then it's going to automatically give you this option of notebook.jl, right? Then you just give it a name. So let's this one. I can just give it a name as, let's say, tuts, right? Tutorials. Spelled it wrong. Notebook tutorials, right? Tuts. Then it's going to choose it. Then it's going to save it there. Going to give you a notification. Click on OK. You have saved it perfectly well. That is how to work with Pluto. Now let's see how to work with Pluto UI, right? So with Pluto UI, that's very simple. Let's try it out. So this is going to be a tutorial on Pluto UI. So to create a Markdown, just go with this. This is creating Markdown. Markdown. Can't spell Markdown. Just go with, you can use using Markdown or can just go straight away with this option of MD and put in here, right? So this is going to be tutorials on Pluto UI. So Pluto UI is just like IPython widget, right? It's like IPython widget, which is how Pluto UI is like, or maybe panel, right? Or Streamlit, but it's at least for inside your notebook. So something similar to IPython widget. So let's see the various things you can do with Pluto UI. I'm going to go with using and make it bigger so that you can see it very well. So using Pluto UI, right? So as I said, if you print something from here, right? If I go with print line, this print line result did not show. It showed inside our terminal here, right? So to be able to see the result here, you can either do it in this way. You can use Pluto UI to help you see the result. This is another approach you can use. So using Pluto UI. So our result has been rendered here. I can even make it bigger. Let's make it big like this. It's just Markdown. It's still going to work, right? So this is similar to, in case I want to make it bigger, I can just do it 3. This is just the Markdown literal string in Julia. So I can just say similar. This one is similar to like IPython widget, right? Something like that, or panel. In case you want to add panel to it, something like that. And then in case you want to add more advanced stuff like Streamlit. So that is similar to that. So this is something similar, right? The Pluto UI is something similar like that. So let's see how to work with Pluto UI. So we'll be trying to see, I want to explore the various packages and the various features we can do with Pluto UI. So it's going to be the features and all the methods, right, of the package of the model. So just go with var info, then I'll just go with Pluto UI. So this thing that I've done here is the same as doing something like this in Python. So dir in Python, right? In Python. So that you have an idea of how it works. So this is going to be something like this to help us see all the various things we can do with Pluto UI. Very nice. Remember that in Pluto, the result always comes up. Right, so this is it. So you can just do buttons, you can do checkbox, clock, color string, date field, all of these basic things you can do with Streamlit, you can do it by button widget or with panel. Okay, so let's see how to display our result. I said first of all that in case you are working with Pluto, if you go with print line, the result comes here inside your terminal, right? Which is good for now. Maybe in the future there's going to be a better option, but what you can do is that you can just use this with terminal here from Pluto UI to render your result. So if I go back again to something like this, say C, right? Or let's go with X, then it's going to be hello Pluto, right? So if in case I want to print this one out, let's create more cells down. In case I want to print this one out, if I do print line X, the result here comes here, hello Pluto. So to see the result inside your Pluto notebook, you just use this particular option. So the first method is going to be displaying results in Pluto, right? Pluto notebook. So the first method is this. So the first method, let's make it Markdown MD, this option here. So the first, it is too big. The first option is just go with this. This is going to be the first method. So method 1 is to use the Pluto UI. So we are using Pluto UI for the first method. In that case, Pluto UI has two options. The first option is with a terminal. So with terminal to be able to see the result. So let's see an example. It's going to be with terminal, right? That is the first option, right? With terminal, then I'll just use a function. Then I'll say that with terminal, do this method 1, do whatever I want to do. So in case I wanted to bring the S, right? So S is equal to, let's say, hello Julia from terminal, right? Right, in case I want to print this one out, I can just go with print line X, then I'll just go with end. So if I go with this option, now this result is no more going to appear here, right? It's not going to come here, it's rather going to come inside my Pluto notebook. So the result is going to appear here. So this is one of the ways you can do that. And now the result has come here, right? Very nice. So that is the first method of displaying your result in Pluto notebook, right? Using Pluto UI. Very simple. So this is useful. This is long, right? This is okay, but I think there's a short method. So this is going to be method 2. I don't know whether there's a dark theme. I hope there's a dark theme. I've not explored it yet. So in case I want to get this method 2, right? Still using Pluto. Right, in case you don't want to be using this option, right? You can also go with this particular option of with terminal, right? That is going to be, it's a function, so just pass in whatever I want to do. So print line, then let's say I want to print X, right? It's going to print my S for us, right? Hello Pluto, right? So that is another way. So this is method 2, using the with terminal, either in this particular, the do approach, like the context manager, or this particular approach, and it's still going to work. Now let's see the third method. So the third method is going to be using still Pluto. So this is going to be method 3. This one, we are using Pluto UI, but we are using the print function. There's a print function from Pluto UI that can help you see your result. It's going to be my print, capital P. Then I pass in whatever I want to do. So let's say I want to pass in, I can pass in whatever I want to do. So this print can be the same thing. So if I go with print A, if I have defined A, it's going to print it out for us, right? So you can use this print option. So I just come. So this is the same thing like just doing like this. A, it's still going to come, right? But if you use the print plus print line, it's not going to give you the result. So print line, like print plus print line, this is not going to work. It's going to give you nothing, right? That explains why when you do this in Pluto, when you do print line A, you don't get anything. You don't get anything here because it's printing nothing. Right? Very cool. So that is how to get your result in when you're working with Pluto for now, right? I hope in the future there's going to be new methods. The first one is just go with Pluto UI and use this option, right? With terminal, or you can just go with this with terminal, right? In case you want to see the result here, and then okay, or you can also use this option here, right, the print function. Now let's move on to some basic stuff you can also do with Pluto and then Pluto UI. Hope the audio is okay. So let's create a Markdown. So we're trying to see the widget in Pluto. So there's going to be Pluto UI widget, right? So let's see our structure. So we're trying to see how to work with text input. First of all, we work on buttons. See how to work with text input. We see how to work with maybe media files. And then let's say etc, right? So that is the basic workflow we're going for our result for exploring the Pluto UI. So the first thing is that let's see how to work with buttons. So to work with buttons, very simple. Just go with this option. There is this particular function. So let's go with my button. I'll give it the name of the button. So button. Now pass, let's say submit, right? Submit. So this is going to be a simple button. Then it's going to automatically generate a button that you can click on and do something, right? But it's going to be there, not attached or bounded or binded to any other stuff. So you see that the name is here, submit, but it's not doing anything, right? So in case you want to attach this button to a particular variable or to a particular place, you can just go with the bind option. So in that case, it's going to be this. I'll come back here and I'll just go with the macro, right? So bind, this is not the decorator, this is in Julia, it is a macro. So the bind option, now I'll give it a name. So let's call it, let's say submit it, something like that, right? And then I'll just go with my widget, right? So let's say submit. So if I run it like this, now this is going to create a button. Then with the bind macro, it's going to bind it to this particular variable, right? So if I click on this variable, it's going to produce a result. So let's attach or glue this particular button to a particular option. So let's go to begin. I can just say, let's say begin and end. Then let's say that if the button is clicked, so submit, then I want you to, let's say, print something out. So let's print something like, let's say I was clicked, right? So something like that. So now that I was clicked, so if I click on it, you're going to see it there, right? So now it has been attached to this. You can do a lot of things, but this is just the overview. Now let's move on to radio buttons with Pluto UI. Let it be radio buttons. So to do radio buttons, let's go something like this. So age, you bind it first, bind, right? Then go with, let's give it a gender, right? Then to bind it, I'm binding the variable called gender to my radio button. Then this radio button takes an array, right? So it's going to be, let's say, male, then female. So this is going to create a radio button for us and then bind it to gender. So you're going to see it at the top here. Remember that Pluto is always going up, right? So you see that we have male, female, which is here. So if I click on male, now it has been bounded to this particular variable called gender. And in case I want to see this particular stuff that we had, to see what was stored, I just go with gender. Then it's going to tell me that I clicked on male, right? So if I change it to female, and I run it to say that automatically change. That is the reactivity of Pluto, right? So it's responsive and then it's reactive. You can see that it's changing. Very cool, right? That is how to work with radio buttons. Now you can also check some other stuff you can also do. So this is going to be with checkbox. So with checkbox, simple. Just go with my bind. Let's give it like, let's say status, right? Then I'll just go with my checkbox. Then I'll pass in. I'm not passing anything. Let's leave it like that. It's just a function, right? Perfect. So this is a status checkbox. I'm going to create a checkbox. Now I can click on it, right? Then it's going to tell me that it is true or false, right? So you can actually attach this checkbox to something, right? So if I go back to the status now, it's going to tell me that it's true, right? So you can actually use the same condition that if the status is true, do something, right? And it's still going to do that, right? Very simple. So you can just do something like, let's say if the status is if status, let's say let's do something like Markdown hello, right? Then end. And now it's showing the hello. If I take it off, it goes, right? Very simple. So that is how to attach any of these things to your variables, right? Any of the widgets to maybe a feature or something. That is how to work with radio buttons, checkbox, and then normal button. Now let's see how to also work with test input. So let's see how to work with test input. So Markdown test input. So in working with test input, let's make it like this. In working with test input is very simple. We'll be trying to see how to build a simple form. So I'm going to call this my name. So bind name, first name, to my test field. Right, perfect. So now this is going to bind whatever I place inside the test field to this particular variable f name. So if I put in a name like Jesse, now it has been stored inside this variable called Jesse. Then in case I want to see it out, I'll just come back again. Then I'll just print it out. So if I go with my f name, it is showing it here, Jesse. If I change it to Jesse from Jesse to, let's say, John, it reactively rendered the result. So that is how to work with test field. Now in case I also want to do test area, right, how do I do that? So you use the test field itself. So I'm going to change the size. So let's go to the message, then test field, and I'll pass in the boundary, the rows and the columns, right? In case you're designing a website, how you do it. So this is going to be, let's say, 30, and then let's make it 7, right? So this is another way. So this is going to create a message area with this particular dimension, the row and the column, and I have put in here, this is so cool in Julia, right? This is for Julia. So now it's going to see this particular one. So if I come back and I want to get the result, I'll just click on my message. Let's make it like this. Let's use lowercase. Right, so you can see that you can actually apply functions to it, right, and see that it is working. So that is how to work with test input and how to work with test area. We can also work with password. So this is going to be my password. In case we want to work with password, as we saw here, that when I type in something, you can see the result, right? In case you don't want to see the result, you can also use the password field. The password field, this one hides input, right? So in this case, it's going to be like this. Bind it to my variable. Let's go to as pswd. Then I'll call that my password field. Then now it's going to hide it perfectly for us. So if I type in something there, so let's go say 1 2 3 4 5. You can't see it, but in case I want to see the result, it's giving us in asterisk, heading it pswd. And now what I typed there was the 1 2 3 4 5. Very simple, very cool. Now the next thing we can also do, apart from these input, we can also work on date input. It's going to be date input. So we can also do that. So bind, then let's call that, say, date of birth, which is going to be my date field. You can also specify a default. All these things you are doing, you can specify a default. This is automatically going to bring your calendar, right? Very cool. So I can click on this, and just like in Streamlit and then in Python widgets, you can just specify the date. It's today 17th. Really? Wow. Okay, so you can see some cool stuff you can also do, right? Then now the result is going to be shown here in the format of datetime object. So if I come down and then I just change it here, so to my DOB, so this is now in a right format. And if I check the type of this that I entered there, type of DOB, going to see that it's automatically converted to a date format, right? Datetime object for Julia. Okay, so that is how to work with date field. You can also do the same thing for time field or time input. So time input, it's going to be, I'll bind it to, let's say, my time. It's going to be time field, right? and this is how to work. You can also specify the default as you wish, right? Very cool. Then I can put in the time as a 12 p.m. Then it's going to bring the result down here if I want. So this is going to be my time. Very cool and very nice. So these are all some basic stuff you can do with Pluto UI. So time field, date field, password field, test field for test area. Then you can do some buttons like checkbox, radio button itself. And then now let's move on to some other stuff you can also do. So we're moving on to select, right? In case you want to select something. So this is going to be for selection. So MD selection. I can't spell selection, and then multi-select. So multi-select. So how do you do that? So it's very simple. You can use to help you with that. So it's very simple. Just go with this option. So let's say I want to give a location. So I'll bind it to a location. Then this location is going to be my select, right, which is my function. I'll pass in my place I want. So let's say Accra. Then let's give it like London. Let's give it as Mumbai. Let's give it, let's say, a different place, like let's say New York. And then another place like let's say Kiev, right? Oh, and then let's say Lagos. Okay, so something very simple. So this is going to create a select option, and I can select it, right? So if I select Mumbai and I come back again to my location here, it's going to print it out, right? Very simple. So I can actually use something like a Markdown stuff, or maybe I create a new string. So YST. So let's go to let's go to C, right? YST. I'm going to use the normal stuff we do. So I can do something like this. So I can just change this one and put it inside a variable. So that something like, let's say C is going to be, so I stay, oh, right, I stay, let's say I work at, then I'll just use a normal string formatting. Yes, so if I click on it, now it's going to change it. So I work at Mumbai. If I change it from here to, let's say I work at London, it's automatically going to reflect here, right? Very cool and very nice. So that is for the select option. You can also do multi-select. So this select, you can also use it in the format of, let's say, a dictionary, not just a list like this. You can also use a dictionary. So in that case, it's going to be something like this. So let's try that one with the dictionary option. This is going to be using dictionary. The same with the radio button, right? You can also use it in the format of a dictionary. So you can also use it in the format of a dictionary. So an example is going to be like this. So I'm binding my place to this particular dictionary, right? So this is a key value pair. You can also use it like this. This approach can be used for the radio buttons also. So run it like that. It's now we have the 1 and the 2 here. If I click on this, so 2, and then I check back again to the place, it's going to bring the 2 there, right? Very simple. The downtown. That is one of the ways you can also use it, right? Not just a list like this. This can be used for the radio buttons also. So let's try an example for the multi-select. So for the multi-select, it's going to be something like this. So let's give it as, let's say, multi-select. As we saw here, this I can only select one. I can't click on shift. I can only select one, right? I can't select multiple. So, but with the multi-select, I can select multiple. So let's try an example. So bind, let's call it as, let's say, salary, right? Or let's use something different. So job. So multi-select, and I pass in my stuff, right? So let's say my job is, let's see, as a data scientist. Let's say as a medical doctor, or let's say doctor, right? Something like that. Or let's say developer, businessman, right? Something like that. So businessman, right? Or entrepreneur, something like that. So this is multi-select, right? You can also specify a default value. So let's try this one first. This is going to be multi-select. So I can select data scientist, and then doctor together, right? Then if I come back and I want to see the result, so the jobs, I'm going to return them perfectly as the two that I selected, right? So that is another way you can also do that. So you can use the multi-select in case you want to select multiple stuff, or you can also use the select in case you want to select only one activity, right? So that's given to us in the format of a string. So I can also specify a default value. So this is going to be, let's say, default. So the default is going to be in the format of also a list like that. So let's call the default as, let's say, developer, right? So it's going to be the default. Then it's going to use this one as default, so automatically it's going to select that developer as the default, right? Very simple. So this is how to work with multi-select. Very cool. Now let's move on to some other stuff you can also do, like slider. Before we forgot, so the slider is simple. So bind, then I'll just give it, like, let's say some range or something. So salary, right? And I'll just give it as my slide. I slide that. Now passing my range. So let's say the salary of the person is going to be 50 to 1000k, right? Something like that. So if I go with this, now it's going to give me the slider, and as you can see, I can slide it, but you are not seeing the value, right? So this is a normal one. If I come back again to what I have done so far, I want to see the value that I picked. I can just go back again to, let's say, salary, and then I can see that the value is going to be the value I picked, right? From here. So this is one of the ways, right? 76. If I change it, then it's automatically changing, right? It's very reactive. But you can also do a slider with showing the value, right? Showing the value as you pick. So how do you do that? So it's very simple. Just come back again. To do a slider that shows the value, just go with my bind. Let's give it like a salary. Like, let's go to the salaries slider. And I'll just go with the same value. So let's say 50 to 100k, right? And I want to specify that I want to show the value. So it's going to be show value. Can't spell value, then true. That is all, right? But this is a keyword argument, so you must bring this particular option here. It's still going to work anyway. Then now with this option, I can see the value. It said that this is 50. This one, there is no value shown, but if I click it, you see that the value is changing here. So this is more better, right? By default, it's set as false. Very cool. That is how to work with sliders, multi-select, and then select using Pluto UI. Now let's move on to one last thing we can also do. So this one can be attached to, let's say, a button or something, right? Or maybe a graph. You want to do something like, let's say for in something like, you want to specify it to salary. You want to attach it to a graph or something. You can use this particular one so that as you change it, it changes the size or the pattern. Or let's do a simple example. So as I said, you can use it, actually attach it to something and do some cool stuff with it, right? Very simple. Now we are done with most of these things. Let's see how to work with media files, right? So that's going to be the next one. It's going to be MD. Working with media, right? Apologies for this, media, right? So how do you work with media files? So it's very simple. So this media option here I'm talking about means that you want to work with Mimi. So anything that Mimi supplies, Mimi, and then let's say in case you want to also work with resources, right? So that is something very simple. So that is working with this. I spelled it wrong. Yeah. One thing about working with Pluto, right, is that in case you make a mistake, there's a live doc there, right? So this live docs, you can actually search for something. So in case I want to search for something, I can just go back to this. Let's say I want to search for something like, say, MD, right? So that's automatically giving us a documentation. I can also do this, say something like, let's say I want to check for print. It's giving us automatic documentation, which is a very cool service, right? Very nice. So that is the one thing about it. So in case I want to do the same thing for the Mimi, so Mimi, this is Mimi, my multi-purpose internet mail extensions. Right, so you see that the Mimi is multi-purpose internet media. So in case I want to show something, right? So this is the live docs. Now let's see some stuff you can also do. So I just come back here. Let's see what we can do. So let's see how to work with trying to display an image, right? So to display an image using a widget, you can just go straight away with the option of the show, right? Then you just pass in your Mimi option. So Mimi, right? Multimedia, something internet media. Then it's going to be a string literal, and I'll pass in what I want. So let's say I want to bring in an image. So image, and a particular type of image. So PNG, which is a function. Then I'll specify that I want to read a particular image, right? So I want to read an image called, let's say, neat test.png. I already have the image in my directory. So this is how to read it. So this option, I forgot the last one, right? So this is how to read it. So you can use this option to read an extension, right? I said that now it has come. So that is how to display images, right? So all you have to know is that you have to know the Mimi type. So this image PNG, then I'm going to read it using Julia, right? Very simple, and it's going to display it here. That is how to work with display images. I can also limit the particular stuff I want to be able to read. Now let's see how to also display, let's say, HTML, right? So because Mimi is also multimedia for HTML, so I just go with the same thing. So show Mimi. Then let's go with, for HTML, it's going to be test HTML, which is a function. Then it takes my HTML that I want to bring it out. So let's see something like this. So let's bring a p tag. Let's give it a style. So style, say color. Let's go to, let's say, red, right? Perfect. Let's say hello, I am red, right? Something like that. I am red. See how it rhymes? So p. Then I can just close it here, right? Making sure that everything is closed well. So this is going to render this particular text that we had in the right format. So I'm mixing something. It's supposed to be show small, this option, right? And it's working perfectly well. And now I am red, right? So this is how to display images, display HTML, right? This is like Markdown, and that's rendered it perfectly well. You can even attach this particular color that we have to, let's say, a color picker, which we'll talk about later. So you see, you have seen how to display image, how to display HTML. You can also display latest and the rest, right? So let's make something cool with this. So we have seen something simple about the image and then the HTML and then the rest you want to do, which is optional. Now let's see how to work with another feature of the color picker, right? So we'll be trying to add some color picker to this. It's going to be my MD. So let's say color picker, and then let's say file picker. So we're trying to see how to do that. In case you have not subscribed to this channel, you can also subscribe and check the links below for more. So let's see how to do that, right? This is too big. So it's very simple. It just goes with this option, right? So we can just come back again. For the color picker, it's good. I can give it as, I'll bind it. Now I'll specify that, let's say I want to pick a particular color, so my color. Then I'll specify the color picker option. The color string picker. Right, you can give it a default value. So let's go with this option. Right, so color string picker. I'm going to bind this particular one. So it's giving us this option, so I can actually pick a selected color, right? Very cool, very nice. So let's do something. So I'll copy this that we had, then I'll bring it down here. I'm going to bind this one to that option. So it's going to be this, right? Then I'm going to change this particular one here to my color. So it's going to be this, my color, referring to this particular color that we have. Let's see whether it's going to work. It's supposed to be this option. See what I did. Let's change this one here from red to the color that you are binding to. Hopefully it works my color. Right, perfect. So the now it is red. If I change this color from this one to, let's pick a color like green, and now it has changed, right? So you can see how we can bind a particular widget to another widget, right? If I change it from this to green, so the color changes here automatically. Let's pick black, and it changes here, right? Very simple and very cool. So that is for the color picker. Now we can also do file picker in case I want to pick a file, like file upload, right? So it's going to be file uploads. So file picker or uploads, right? In case I want to pick a file. So let's give it as my bind. Then I'll specify what I want to pick, right? So I'll call it as, let's say, my file. Something like that, right? My file uploads. Then I'll just bind it to file picker. So it's automatically going to bind it to this file picker. Then now it's going to give us the option of picking a file. So with the file picker, you can also specify the files you want to allow and files you don't want to allow. So if I go to choose file, I'll be able to choose a particular file. So let's pick this particular file encoding. Now it's going to pick that particular file here. So everything has been stored inside my file uploads. Then in case I want to see everything that I have, I just go with my file uploads. It's going to return a dictionary. This returns a dictionary, which consists of the data itself and then the metadata about the file that has been picked. Perfect. So now it has given us a dictionary with the name, which is the file name itself here, and then the data, right? So in case I want to view this data, I can also use the same thing we did above to work on that. So in case I want to get the display this particular image, right? Just go with this. So my file uploads to data. It's a dictionary, so you can just treat it as a dictionary. It's going to bring, made a mistake here, it's going to bring this result here, right? So this is an image. So in case I want to display this particular image, I can just come back and use a show, right? Then I'll just do the same thing like the show and then the mimi. Mimi, I don't know how they pronounce it. Then I'll say it, I want an image and it's a PNG, right? Perfect. It was a function. Then now with this I can display that particular one. Remember this show is capital show, capital S, not small, because this is coming from Pluto UI. It's going to show the image there, right? Very simple, very cool. That is how to work with Pluto UI. So thank you for watching this long and exciting tutorial. You have seen how to work with Pluto and how to work with Pluto UI, right? So we've seen how to work with some of the widgets. So button, you can even work with clock, date field, download button. You can dump files, you can do local resource. There are several things you can do with it. You can even do range slider, remote resource, show, all of these things, right? You can even do with IO contest and then the rest. So the power is in your hands. So thank you for watching this long tutorial. In case you have any question or contribution, you can just put it inside the comment section below and then see you another time. So with this, I can also export it. So click this, export it here, right? So let's save it as PDF, right? And then you can also work with it later on. So I'll click on this one to save it as PDF, so that you can use it later on in case you want, right? So let's click on save. You can also export it as notebook, right? Anyhow you want it to be, and it's still going to work as you wish. So let's change the name, save it. So thank you for watching. See you another time, and check the links below for some interesting materials to help you master machine learning and Python as well as Julia. See you another time. Stay blessed.